Ciao a tutti, mi chiamo Mihai, no Mihai Corlan. Io sono un evangelista con Adobe, and that's all I have in Italian, thanks to Google Translate. From now on, only my English, funky English. And I'm here with my fellow evangelist, Piotr Walczyszyn. It's a very complicated name.
Yeah, it is very complicated. Yeah, nice
He's
to...
from Poland, isn't it?
Yeah, I am. Well, that's why it's complicated. Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to see you here.
So I'm from Romania. This is my nickname. I'm also known like Mihai the Gypsy, the Romanian cousin. And he's known as the Polish who loves vodka. He can do all sorts of tricks with vodka.
I don't think they see that, man. Oh, you see that? Oh, okay, because I was looking here.
So this is who you are. And this slide, it's really important. So you see a hashtag, Create the Web, and then two Twitter accounts, my account and his account. The thing is, if you have questions and we don't have time today to answer them or whatever, or if you see something that you like very much or you didn't, use the hashtag, because we are monitoring the stream, the Twitter stream. Also, people from the products, like engineers and product managers, are monitoring the tweet stream, and we usually are very fast in replying those requests. We've done this in a number of places here in Europe, Barcelona, Oslo, Copenhagen, and it worked very well. Like people asking questions at 1 o'clock in the night, and we are there. Yeah, we never sleep. It's a tough job. Yeah. You can applaud us. Grazie, grazie. Okay, so you know who we are. So we both work for Adobe. We are web evangelists. Now, how about you? Who is here actually a web developer? Or can you raise your hand? Okay. Web designer? Oh, that's nice. And who here actually created, I don't know, like Phonegap application, mobile applications in general? Couple of you, okay. Okay. Do you like Phonegap? Is it cool? No? No? Come è possibile? I don't know how to swear in Italian. Okay. What about mobile websites or mobile web applications, right? Anyone is doing like responsive web design? And that's awesome. Okay, and now I have a really tough question for you. How many of you actually knew about the stuff we are going to talk today, like Adobe Edge Reflow, Adobe Edge Animate, and so forth, before the event? Any one of you have tried anything? That's awesome. It's really good, because otherwise we'll have to change the presentations, right? Thank you so much. Grazie, Marco. Andiamo. Right, so Piotr and I will going to talk about HTML5 today. We are going to talk about tools and services that are actually built for HTML5. Okay. And before starting doing this, I want actually to take you back. So is there anyone here old like me who remember the days of Internet Explorer and Netscape Navigator, and that was it? Okay, couple of you. So right, 1996, 1997, 1999, everything was simple, right? Internet Explorer 4, I think. It was 4 back then?
Yeah.
4 was the best, right? Even better than Netscape. And then maybe some PHP, some CGI, some Perl, whatever. Ruby wasn't there yet. And then you were targeting like a big screen, right? 800 by something in terms of resolution. Awesome. A single screen, basically almost a single browser, everything was fun. Now for the new kids on the blocks, right? Today it's a totally different landscape, right? There are so many different devices and operating systems and browsers, right? You have Safari, you have Chrome, you have Firefox, you have Opera, you have Netscape is not anymore. And also, Internet Explorer is still here. And also you have different versions, right? You have Safari Mobile and Safari for desktop. You have Chrome for Android, Chrome for desktop, and then you have Android browser as well, and so forth. Opera Mini and so forth. So everything, it's complicated these days, isn't it? Not anymore. What resolution do you target? 1024 by something. Oh, it doesn't work on an iPad. So guess what? At Adobe, we like to build tools. And as we were looking at how the web development landscape evolved, we realized that we need to build new stuff for the new HTML, right? HTML5, CSS3. And we realized that actually it's really hard. And although HTML5 and CSS3 brought so many new things to the table, as we were starting to think about new tools for designers and developers, we realized that actually there are so many more things that we can actually add to HTML5 or CSS3. And I will show you in a minute what I'm talking about. But the idea is that as we were working on new tools and services, we realized that maybe another good place for Adobe is to actually add new CSS features to the CSS3, and also maybe to help the WebKit engine, like having Adobe engineers who are actually working on the WebKit to implement those features. Anyone knows what WebKit is? The engine, right? Okay, so you know. It's the engine used by Safari and Chrome and other browsers. Now, if you look at Adobe, how many of you heard of Photoshop? A couple of you, that's okay. Illustrator. Adobe Premiere. So you can see what I'm talking here, right? So you think at Adobe and you think about these products as well. And guess what? Those products are about manipulating images, videos, and also do something creative with these things, right? Creating interactivity, creating amazing experiences. And now if you take a look back to web, there are things that are actually missing. Like a simple thing like compositing or blending two images, right? In Photoshop, you can choose a number of layers, like 2 different images, and you can blend them together and choose all different parameters to do so. It's not possible on the web. Or you can do some sort of a trick using the canvas element and then manipulating the bits itself, the pixels, but it's not the same thing, right? You cannot take a div and another div and say, I want to overlap them and, I don't know, to do an XOR or, I don't know, a source overlay and so forth. Also, if you look at the web, how it is the web today, there is no way to apply cinematic filters on a DOM element. You have WebGL and the 3D context for doing crazy stuff with pixels, but there is no way to do the same crazy stuff in the 3D space on an ordinary div element or an ordinary link element. There's no way. And these are just 3 examples of the things we are focusing at Adobe. And actually, I want to show you a couple of examples. So have you heard of CSS Regions? That's a new thing that it's coming from Adobe. OK. So maybe I should show you a couple of demos, right? CSS Regions, CSS Exclusions. I will show you custom filters, formerly known as CSS shaders in action, and also some examples of blending and composing. So let's see. And if you see something that you like, you can say. Let's start with something simple. So CSS regions. With CSS regions, basically you can define a flow of divs, for example. So here I have 3 different divs. And the text itself, it will be automatically flow from the first region to the second region, the third region, and nth region you might have in your page automatically. So the text doesn't get cut or it's, I don't know, disappears. So watch what's happening with the text as I change the size. You see that it flows? So guess what? Something like this, it's available for years in Adobe Illustrator, right? If you create something for the print, you are used to have something like this. Let's see another example. Here I have, for example, 2 different flows. The green one, it's one flow, and the blue one, it's another flow. And you can imagine something like this maybe for an article, I don't know, a scientific article, and here you might have in the blue one, for example, the English version and the Italian version could be side by side in the green one. And again, the text flows automatically. Now let me show you the exclusions example. because it's really cool. With exclusions, you can do something different. Like you can change the way the text is rendered inside of a div element. Instead of having a box shape for the text, you can say I want a heart, or maybe I want the text to be like rendered as it would be inside of a circle, and things like this. So let's see a simple example. You see here? So it's like a rounded corner, right? Rectangle. But this is text, and this is just a div. And on that div, it's applied the CSS shape inside that says, you know what? I want to have a div with rectangle, with rounded corners. And over here, I have an entirely different shape. And if I play with the size, you can see that it grows nicely and shrinks nicely. Let's see something that is more interesting. What do you think? So again, this is text, right? Do you know Edgar Allan Poe? That's awesome. It should have been something with Dante Alighieri, right? Lazy developers at Adobe. So again, it's just a div with a shape. And you can play with the scale. You can play with the font size. And everything flows automatically. You can disable the shape, and you can see the shape behind, and now it's just the ordinary div. Awesome, man. And this is even more interesting. Because it's CSS, guess what? You can actually, you can animate, right? You see? You can animate this shape and have a nice transition. Now, the thing is, when you put together the regions and the exclusions, you can actually reach on the web the same rich layout and expressive layout you are used to it when you are reading some sort of a Vogue magazine or something like this. And I should have here some example. Let's see. This one. Let's see if it fits the screen. Maybe something smaller. Nope, doesn't work. Too big. Well, you see, I have regions because I have like 3 different columns, but at the same time I have exclusions. You see how the text actually at the top follows the path? You see? Not really, huh? And another example that uses regions is this one. I have like 4 different regions. Here is one, here is another one, here's the third, and here's the fourth. And the cool thing with this one is that it's using media queries. And by using media queries and regions, it can change automatically the layout to fit the screen. So now the application mimics like a zoom resolution, but I can choose an iPhone resolution. And you see how everything was reflow, and I can navigate and see the rest of the content. So no page reload, no JavaScript to take the content out, calculate like the new sizes of the divs, and then inject the content, right? It's just CSS. Is it cool? Hard in Italy to be cool. Have to be Valentino Rossi or something. Okay. I was talking about compositing, let's see, and blending. So, here I have 2 images. This one with this comfortable chair, and this one with limes, or I don't know what fruits are these. I guess they are limes. And I can choose how to overlay. So the 2 pictures are stuck on top of each other, and I can do something like, okay, let's choose an exclusion. Wow. Color. Luminosity. Oops. And don't have enough screen estate to pick all the options over here. And compositing, it's about blending two different shapes. So here I have a div that has like a border on the left and on the top. And then I have a div with rounded corners that actually, it is rendered as a circle. And here you can see how you can actually compose these two shapes, right? So they are not two PNGs. And you can choose different way of compositing, like the source, destination. You can compose them one on top of each other or the other way around and so forth. Pretty cool. And the last demo, it's about custom filters. Let's see. Really hard to fit everything on this tiny, tiny, tiny screen. Okay, so as you know, there is a specification called CSS Filters, and the first part of the specification is specifying like the built-in filters, and you have blur filters, brightness, and all the the regular filters you might expect. So you can play with opacity, for example, or you can play with the blur. Let's see. And again, because it is just the CSS, you can also play with the properties over time, so you can get a nice animation. You see? And this is just CSS, right? You're going to use WebKit filter because so far it's implemented in WebKit browsers like this Chrome nightly build, and then the filter itself and the amount to be applied. 1 year ago, we showed for the first time something that was called back then CSS shaders. And with CSS shaders, actually, you can use the same WebGL and OpenGL language that you are going to use if you want to build like 3D games in HTML using the WebGL. And you can use that language to create custom filters. And then those custom filters you can apply on any DOM element. So you can take the whole page and apply that custom filter. You can take just a div element. You can take a div that has, like in my case, it has images and text, this div. Let's remove this filter. So I have here some text. As you can see, I can select. And the background is actually an SVG in this case. And I can do something like, for example, apply a page curl effect. So if I scroll a little bit and I play with the curl, you see what I mean. So this is like in the 3D space. I can rotate the div, you see? And again, I can have a transition. And in most cases, on modern computers, it will be actually everything, all the code that is necessary, all the calculations on the pixels and on the colors will be actually done on the GPU. So it will be like really fast, right? Of course, there is a software fallback. If the computer is very old or maybe the GPU card is not very powerful, it will be still playing with less frames per second. But the point is that you'll still be able to see it, right? And let's see another one. Let's see this one. For some reason, I don't see the whole, I don't see where it's applied. Come on. Maybe it's broken. Let's try another one. That's not a good start. Oh, this one is cool. So I have here a mesh. And this mesh, if you want, it's applied on top of this DOM element. And I can manipulate the points, the pixels behind. Right? So let's grab some more. And again, I can have a transition. And I can add another filter on top of this. So let's see the amount. And now if I play, I have something that is more complex, right? So these are the custom filters, which are not available today in the commercial browsers, but you can already play with everything I show you. Actually, if you take like a Canary, a nightly build of Chrome, or a WebKit nightly, you'll be able to play with regions, with exclusions, with custom filters, which is pretty awesome. And there is also on our site a special build of Canary that has compositing and blending enabled. So you can take the examples I showed you, see the CSS, play with it, give us feedback. And if you want actually to do this, all you have to do is to go to html.adobe.com and go to Web Standards. And you'll find descriptions for all these great features like CSS Regions, and you'll find the specification, and then you'll find the link to download the demo and the files and so forth. So these are just some of the things we've been doing, I think, starting like 2 years ago. And chances are that some of these might be available very soon, like in a regular version of the browser. And we are not working alone on these features. For example, on the custom filters, the crazy 3D stuff, we are working with Microsoft and Opera. Apple is also interested. On the exclusions and the regions, we are working with Apple, Google, and Opera, and Microsoft, sorry. So it's not just Adobe. The other people involved in web standards are also interested in bringing these new features to CSS. And just like a quick example that the standards are actually moving much faster in terms of going from a standard to having the standard implemented in the browser. When iOS 6 was launched, like last month, they already have support for the built-in filters, right? So you can apply the blur and the opacity filters with no problems. It will run on iOS 6. Now, if you ever use something from Adobe, chances are that you might have used like something like Dreamweaver, or maybe Fireworks if you are a designer, or Photoshop. And actually, these tools are really great. And they've been helping developers and designers for more than 10 years to build web content. But at the same time, with HTML5, CSS3, and the new capabilities in the JavaScript itself, you got the feeling that these tools are starting to show their age, right? And we realized this at Adobe, and we decided to create something new, right? Because we think like the modern web, what we have today with this diversity of devices and operating systems, and this web that can run on a huge TV, on a normal desktop, or on a tiny smartphone, this modern web needs modern tools. And this is why we actually launched a new suite that it's called Edge Tools and Services on September 24th. And for the next 1 hour and a half, probably, we'll be talking about some of the bits that are part of this new offer from Adobe. So, what it makes really special? I think the most important thing to understand is that each tool and service that it's part of this Edge Tools and Services, it's laser focused. So instead of having like a huge tool like Dreamweaver, okay, that does so many things, we decided to create a bunch of smaller tools, but each one actually does a single thing, and it does that thing very well, okay? And they are also designed from ground up to take care of the mobile web as well from the beginning. So mobile web with this tool is not an afterthought. You start a project with desktop in mind, and at some point in the future, you decide, okay, I want to bring that project on mobile as well. It's not the case. We think that you should start your work with mobile from the beginning. So let's see what it's inside of this new suite. First of all, there is a new tool for animation that, as opposed to Flash Professional, actually works with HTML. So you'll see my next demo will be about Edge Animate. It's called Edge Animate. And by using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, you can animate images, div elements, text, nodes, and so forth. Second, there is a cute little tool called Edge Inspect And if you are doing any sort of mobile website or mobile web application development, it will help you to streamline the testing workflow or the process you have to test. It helps you to do synchronized browsing. It helps you to start a remote web inspection. It helps you to take screenshots from your computer, from your desktop. You can take screenshots from iOS devices, Android devices, and get all those screenshots back to your computer. And all you have to do is just to click a button. And then if you want to create, of course, mobile applications that you are going to deploy using iTunes or Android Market and so forth, you can use Phonegap, right? Using HTML, again, JavaScript and CSS, and the Phonegap SDK, you can achieve this. Now, if you want to build a Phonegap, like to get the native installer, the IPA file, the APK file, you can also use the Phonegap Build, which is a cloud service that helps you to package your application. There are basically two big workflows. You can either make a zip, an archive with everything you have for your Phonegap app, and upload that archive to our servers, and our servers will build 6 different native installers for 6 different platforms. Or you can provide actually an URL for a GitHub repository. So you might use your GitHub account. Everything you build, you push to that GitHub repo, and then all you have to do is to copy the URL, paste it in Phonegap Build, and you are done. Piotr will show you Phonegap and Phonegap Build. Brackets, it's an open source editor, code editor for web from Adobe. We announced it for the first time in May this year. And since then, we had more than 20 people from outside Adobe that joined the project. It's still not ready for prime time, so I don't think you can replace your Sublime or TextMate or VI with this tool yet, but it's getting there pretty soon. Again, Piotr will be talking about this. Then there is also commercial distribution of Adobe brackets, that it's called Adobe Edge Code. And the reason we decided to create this commercial version is that we said, you know what, maybe we should help developers who want to target, for example, Phonegap, to be able to package their application using Phonegap Build directly from brackets. But because brackets would need then to be tied to some specific Adobe service, we decided to put that code in a different product, that it's code, Edge Code. And at the same time, we decided to offer for free because it is based on an open source project, brackets. We decided, okay, Edge Code will be a commercial version, but it's still free. It doesn't cost anything. Then Typekit. Anyone here uses Typekit? I'm curious. Do you know what Typekit is? Okay. So probably Typekit is one of the best services for web fonts. And it's a commercial service. There is a free tier. You can use up to two fonts, I think, 2 different fonts on a single website, and you can do this for free. But if you want to do more, you'll have to pay. And the good news is that you'll have access to lots of really high-quality web fonts. Everything is hosted on our servers, and it's really easy to consume them. But if you just want to try web fonts, maybe you didn't use before, or it's your first foray in the web fonts realm, you can try using Edge Web Fonts. We partner with Google, and this is like a really free offer. You don't have to register anywhere. You just go to Edge Web Fonts. You pick up your favorite font. You copy the code you need to insert into your website, and off you go. So no registration, nothing. It's free. There are more than 500 web fonts. As I said, many of them are coming from Google Web Fonts. And again, they are really good. And finally, there is a new tool that we previewed for the first time last month called Reflow. If you are big on responsive web design, I think you're going to like this tool. Piotr will show you a demo. It's a tool for designers. Not yet. It's the only one that it's not actually available for you to try today. But very soon it will be like, in a matter of weeks, you'll be able to download it and play with an early beta version. It's a tool, again, for designers. We are not sure where we are going to go with this tool. We need your feedback. But you'll see. It's really nice. So this is Adobe Edge tools and services in a nutshell. And the thing to remember is that you can get all these things today with the exception of Reflow. It is free. You don't have to pay anything. You just go. Piotr will show you actually the URL, creative.adobe.com. You register for the free tier, and you can download them. Questions so far? No questions? Okay. So for the last part of my session, I'm going to show you Edge Animate, the tool for making animations. So, of course, today we can actually build expressive and incredible complex animations on the web using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It used to be only with Flash or maybe with animated pictures, but today you have this power. There is only one problem with the animations today when using JavaScript and CSS and HTML. Usually you don't have a tool that helps you to build those animations and try them while you are still designing them and thinking of them in a visual manner, right? Usually you have to use maybe jQuery to do the animations, which means you stay in code, right? It's like Neo in Matrix, right? You see the bits, the bytes, and everything. And we think that the best people in the world capable of doing amazing animations usually are designers, interactive designers, these sort of people who are not necessarily very good, or maybe they don't like to do it in code. So this is why we started this project, to build a tool that helps people to create beautiful animations, interactivity, to add interactivity to websites in a visual manner. In terms of who can, or who is this tool for? Of course, if you look at the skills involved in a web project, on one side you have like the server-side guys, PHP guys, or people who care more about the server side, PHP, Java, .NET, and so forth. And then you have the other side of the spectrum, people who care a lot about pixels and colors, and they might be designers, they might be interactive designers, and so forth. So, of course, being a graphical tool, a visual tool, it's more for the last category, right? Not for PHP developers. In terms of what you can build with the tool, as I said in the beginning, the whole suite has the mobile in mind. So you can build animations for mobile devices that are going to play in a mobile browser. You can build animations for desktop, of course. You can build animation that will be used inside of books, right? There are electronic book standards that are based on HTML. So you can imagine a book maybe for a kid that explains something related to mathematics or physics, and you can have a nice animation that illustrates that point, and so forth. In terms of how it works, of course you're going to use HTML to define the things you want to animate. It could be some divs with background and borders and maybe text, and then you are going to use CSS to apply some style to those divs. And then, of course, in order to make the animation more interesting, you are going to transform something, either moving from X, Y here to XY here, or maybe rotating, translating in 3D space, and so forth. And again, you are going to use CSS. And finally, the last part, the animation, calculating all the intermediate points between the starting and the ending of the animation, it's handled by the JavaScript. And because it is handled by JavaScript, you can have a twinning. Anyone here used to use Flash? Professional? Okay, so you know what twinning means, right? You can do an easy in, easy out. You can do both of them. So the animation, instead of going linear, it can start slowly, then accelerate, and then decelerating. Things like that. So let's see the tool in action. I have to be honest, I'm not a designer. So chances are what I'm going to create, it will look awful for the web designers in the audience, but I saved for the last part of my demo some examples that were created by real designers, right? I don't want to start with that because it will be the bar, it will be too higher. So let's see, this is the tool. And this is version 1. If you download this version today or tomorrow, you'll be able to use it for free for the rest of your life. We are not sure about version 1.5 or version 2 if it will be free again. But this one, it will be free, okay? And this is our way to say thank you to community because it was developed with community. We had like hundreds of thousands of downloads, a huge forum, people gave us lots of feedback during the development phase. We had like 7 different public previews of the tool, with each one adding and fixing, taking into account everything you guys said. Okay, so obviously I can create something new. And what you see here is just a div element that has a width and a height over here. So it's 550 pixels width and 400 pixels height. And you can choose a color as well. And this is if you want your stage. On this stage, you are going to create your animation. And you can, because it's just a div, you can decide what to do with the content that it's outside of this area, right? You can hidden. You can add scroll if you want. Another thing you can do actually is to make the whole animation to be mobile friendly, in that instead of using 500 pixels, you can say, okay, my canvas will be 100% or 60% width, and everything will grow and shrink with the size of the screen. And also you can start a project, like in my case, from scratch, or you can bring in an existing web page and just add the interactivity you want to add in some small part of that bigger site, right? So these are things to keep in mind. Right, so let's do something. I can add a div. Obviously, this is just a div with rounded corners. I can change the color. And I can make this div to do something. And here, as you can see, there is a timeline, right? So I can move the timeline over here. And I can say that, you know what, when the animation, which will going to be 1 second in length, when the animation ends, I want this circle to be here and to be red. But when it starts, maybe I want to be smaller, to have the circle smaller, let's say 40%, and maybe I want to change the color as well. And now if I preview the animation, you can see, okay? And I can go for another second if I want, and I can click here to insert another key point and said, you know what, go back to 40%. And for this, the same, 40%. And for the color, I don't know, let's go back to yellow. And if I test again, you can see. But as you see right now, the animation is linear, right? I mean, it's a constant velocity. I can change this. So I can do something like, I don't know, ease in, out. Elastic, for example. Oops. Okay, and let's see. Come on. Okay. Now it's okay. Not the best one, isn't it? Let's try a quad. A little bit better. Now, remember, this is just a div element, right? So I can do something like copy this one and paste it. And now I have 2 divs. And I can paste it again. And now I have 3 divs. But no animations. Come on. Okay, now I copied everything. Select stage and paste. Okay, now I have two different instances, finally. And if I play them, you can see that the second animation starts a little bit later. And I can do something like change or orchestrate the animation. And of course I can change the color. So for example, I'm not happy with the color here. So let's change the color. Maybe make it blue. Let's test again. By the way, what you see here, it's actually a WebKit browser. But I can also test it in the browser itself, right? And now I can do something even more interesting. I can transform something from the stage into a symbol. And symbol is just an animation that has its own timeline, and it's reusable. So if I right-click on this one and say convert to symbol, let's say S1, and right-click on this one and convert to symbol and say, I don't know, S2. Now I'll have two different symbols under the symbols panel, and I can drag and drop different instances. And if I edit any of these instances, all the instances of the same symbol will be modified. So if I change a color for the symbol S1, all the instances on the stage will have the same color, right? So you can see maybe you can do something like, I don't know, a snow effect or something by creating a single snowflake and then duplicating. So now if I have something like this. And you can do even something more interesting. You can select two of them and create another symbol that actually will be using those two symbols. So let's see, S3. And on this one, we can do something like this. Come on. You see? And you can get all sorts of crazy things. You can also add, if you want, triggers, like when an animation completes, maybe you want to do something to play again, so you can do something like play from what keyframe, from 0, or maybe you have like 10 keyframes from keyframe 10, and so forth. You can actually get another symbol. So suppose I want to get this one, and this one it's called S3, let's say. I will say S3 over here, and I can check. Let's change the variable name to be shorter. I can check if that symbol is currently playing, doing something like is playing. For example. And if it's playing, I can say maybe my V stop. If it's not playing, I can start playing, and I can do this when clicking on something, like, for example, I can do something like on click or double click, and you get the idea. Also, when you create a symbol, you can actually export that symbol, okay? And you can reuse it in other projects. You can build, if you want, your own library of symbols. Like Christmas, it's coming, right? It's big here, Christmas. I mean, we are in Europe, not in China. So I can see, I don't know, you can make a very happy, I don't know, a tree, a Christmas tree, or something, and maybe you want to reuse it in many projects and take the money from the clients like this, ka-chang, ka-chang. Or, if you are like me, from Romania, you have to have like a backup plan. If computers fail for me, maybe I should try singing. And I can do something like this. Come to Rome, singing, using my accordion, and lots of euros bills will come from the sky, right? It will fall nicely in my pocket. And if you see this one, it's I've done this very simple, using some images, and then I animate some of the images. So for example, first I animated this, this bill to move left and right, as you can see here, and I created a symbol. And then I created another symbol that actually goes from top to bottom, right? Using the first one. And then, of course, I animated the accordion, and it's pretty simple. And then you can import those symbols in another project, and so forth. So I can go here, and for example, assets, I can go to add a new one, and I can choose my dancing money or an image in this case, and also import a symbol. And now I can drag symbol here, and I can reuse it over here, right? Okay? Now let me show you what a talented designer or interactive designer can actually create with this tool. So first of all, which one was this one? This is a simple visualization tool if you want. So you can see the mobile OS market share, I think it's from 2 years ago, and you can click on a continent and you have this nice animation and then data. And I guess it's really nice being able to see this. Sorry. Like here in Europe, what is this? It's Blackberry. So it's really old, right? Blackberry was that big, 44%, and Nokia was 9%. Or you can see something like this one. This is the classic rotator, right? But it's with animations, and little things are coming here. Okay? And if I go to the second, I have something like this. If I go to the third, and it's not all, I can do something like this. So this is an example of what you can actually do with the tool itself. This is an example created by my fellow evangelist, Lee Brimlow. He's a big fan of Breaking Bad. I don't know if you know the TV show. And you can do this sort of zoom in, zoom out, and double tap on something and get extra. And again, it's not Flash, right? I can inspect everything. And this is something that was built with the tool initially, and then the designer started to change even more than the animations. It's a portfolio site, so this is a guy who builds web experiences, and you can see this sort of animations. And what do you think? Is it cool? So again, to be honest, what you see here is or wasn't built from the beginning with the tool, but he started in the tool. He started to orchestrate the animations and have like the general idea of what he wants to achieve. And once he reached, like, let's say the limitations of the tool, he started to tweak the code, and because in the end it's JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, so you can tap in and do other stuff on top of it. So this was my Animate demo. And this is the last one. It's a much simpler demo, but it shows you how you can reach some sort of movement using text, using lines, and so forth. Pretty simple, but it's hard to see how you can do something like this in half an hour using just code, right? As opposed to something visual, where you can drag things around, you can multiply them, you can... Something I didn't show you in the tool, you can actually also copy-paste an animation for the same one, for the same symbol. You can paste it on the timeline to extend the animation. So very quickly you can build something that it's complex, starting with something simple. You just rotate something and scale and whatever, change the color, and 5 minutes later you have a bunch of things that scale, rotate, and do all sorts of things. In terms of how it looks when you export, you have two different ways to export everything. You can either inject or let the framework to inject everything at runtime. So the page will start with an empty div, and once everything was loaded, it will start to inject the divs you added, images, and so forth, which is not very friendly maybe for search engine optimization. Or you can actually let the tool to publish with everything generated in the page. So let's see if I can do something like this. Publish settings, let's see. Web, okay. Let's save it. And let's see a publish. And if I show you the source, in this case I have just the div and everything will be injected at runtime. And in terms of files, I have this file, and then there are also 3 different JavaScript files. One of them is just a preloader. So the preloader will wait for the page to be loaded and parsed, and then we'll start to download the other 2 JavaScript files. And one of the JavaScript files keeps all the symbols you defined and all the animations as a JSON file. And the last JavaScript file is just for custom JavaScript code you might edit, like triggers for complete, for click, for double click, right? You ended up writing some JavaScript code. And this is what it's generated. Behind the scene, it's using jQuery. And you can use jQuery inside of those triggers, so you can do dollars, dot something, grab something, change the inner HTML, and so forth. So this is in a nutshell Animate. As I told you, if you have questions about Animate and things like this, I encourage you to use the Create the Web tag. You can reach me here, grab me, and ask me questions. We still have like 5 minutes while we are switching the computers if you have questions. If not, I'll say grazie.
There are some questions, Mihai, I think. There was.
Just wondering which browser are you compatible with this kind of technology?
With what browsers?
Yeah. Just
It-
browser or do you...
No. It works with all the modern browsers. We are using like the new CSS properties, but it should work like in IE 9.8. It should work not in the old browsers.
Okay.
It should work in
Firefox as well?
sorry?
Firefox as well?
Yeah, it should work in Firefox. Or you might get like different performances depending on how fast the animations and the transformations on the CSS are working on that specific browser. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Only if you use like translate Z, right? Or rotate, yeah, the skew, and yeah. There is no, yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the back, I think it's using jQuery,
Yeah.
basically. So the engine is built on jQuery. So that's why it's portable across the browsers. It's not only limited to the browsers on our left. Okay.
And
Okay.
you can see the future. If something like the custom filters, I show you the demo, it's implemented in the browsers. You can see how you can actually implement or add support for that stuff in the business, right? Being able to apply a custom filter on something and animate it. Possible.